Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry I'm running a little bit late. Just been racing around today, and just now I was able to get the kitchen prepped and ready to go to do a little chicken marsala. So we are going to enjoy this great classic dish. It is, it's pretty easy. A lot of great Italian restaurants around the valley make it. Hello, Frank DeSalvo. Hello, Jeffrey. You can get it in a lot of places. Of course, a lot of places aren't open or they have limited availability. So now you can make one of your favorite dishes. This is a classic Italian dish, a little northern Italian dish. It's got a little cream in it. This was, again, we've been favoring recipes that my mom likes, which is kind of funny. But my dad did not like cream sauce in anything. No sound? How's there no sound? Are you sure there's no sound? Is there sound, Richard? Can you hear me? Anyway, okay, Marvel, is it? Richard, turn your volume up. Richard doesn't have any sound. In case you're wondering, I poured myself a little glass of bourbon. I'm going to enjoy that while because I'm not going to drink the Marsala. Okay, sounds good. All right, so what I've done a little of the prep work. Watch out, Mr. Ryan. Dog's in the kitchen, always great. Okay, so chicken breast, filleted, pounded thin. We did this with the chicken caprese. So we've done that. A little salt, pepper, put it in a bag with flour. You just need a few tablespoons of flour. Get it coated like that. And now we're ready to saute those. And that's what we're going to do. And Richard, since I'm going to come over to your house for pasta later, was I not supposed to say that? I'll bring the chicken marsala too. Here we go. I need a little more fire under that. All right, so we've got the chicken, and again, you can do this with a whole breast if you want to, but I really like to make the filet, and you just kind of slice it right down the middle, pound it thin with your meat mallet. It breaks up some of the connective tissues, it makes it a little tender, and this is going to be fork tender, this dish, when it's done. And it's beautiful. So we're going to saute the chicken in a pan over medium-high heat. So we've got that going. You guys know how to saute chicken in a pan, no doubt. The nice part about this dish, someone posted, what, are you going to put any capers in it? I don't put capers in mine, but if you like capers in yours, every recipe is a little different, as with most Italian recipes. Let's just come over and take a look at what we've got going on in the pan. These beautiful chicken filet cutlets that are cooking up. And I'll get them just a little brown and ready to go. And I posted the rest of the recipe, the ingredients, earlier. But you got to have your mushrooms. Beautiful slice. A lot of people like to put the baby Bella mushrooms. Those are always good. These are just good old-fashioned button mushrooms. I had a really nice sized, yes, the pan has olive oil, and I'm going to put a little butter in it. I'm glad you reminded me. So we've got olive oil in the pan, which we heated up, and then we're going to throw a little butter in there just to kind of help brown the chicken. Come here. There we go. That's in there. And then reserve the rest of the butter for the sauce that we're going to make after we've done frying the chicken. You're going to need a little bit of chicken stock. I got a 2/3 of a cup there. You're going to need some cream. I'm going to put about a cup of cream in this. Of course, Marsala. And any Marsala will do. It's not an expensive wine, obviously. You can pick it up, $6, $7, $8. I had a bottle laying around. I don't know how good it is. We'll find out. And, of course, we got a couple of cloves. It looks more like 3 of chopped garlic. So that's ready to go. So I'm browning the chicken. And it doesn't have to be golden brown. You just want to make sure you've cooked it. Oh, that's nice. With the butter, that'll brown up the edges. Just want to make sure, because we're going to put this back into the sauce. So, good stuff. Yeah. So we're going to put it back into the sauce a little bit later on. So even if your chicken is not completely cooked through right now, that's okay. There are mushrooms, Tom Brewer. But don't worry. I'm not making bananas Foster until next week. That's just for you. No, I'm not going to do that next. Actually, next week, I can tell you what we're going to do. Next week, I'm going to have a guest chef join me, my buddy Bob Ware, and he does a fantastic from scratch Caesar dressing, the way it was supposed to be done. And so he's going to join me, and we're going to make it in Jerry Vale's salad bowl. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I got the mushrooms, the shallots, all of that's ready for the sauce. But we got to get our chicken cooked off. And again, it's just a little flour, salt, and pepper. And I put them in one of those 1 gallon storage bags and just roll them around. After I've pounded them out thin, you just put them in the bag with the pepper and the salt and the flour. All right, the last of the chicken going in. Whew. That looks nice. All right. And I can just show you this. So the chicken, we've just cooked it off a little bit. We haven't browned it entirely, but don't worry, the sauce is going to give it great color. And the nice part about this, again, it's a little complicated, but if you don't want to go through the trouble of pounding the chicken breast, you can buy the cutlet at the store. Usually they have them already sliced thin. That's great. They're nice and tender. Once you cook the chicken off, everything we're going to do in that pan. So this is, again, a one-pan meal. Of course, you want to throw in a little side salad, maybe some pasta on the side as well. Oh, yeah, that's nice. But this was one of those dishes that my mother loved, but it's also one of those dishes that we rarely had at home. It was one of those that was kind of reserved for nights out in a fancy Italian restaurant. And in my family growing up, we didn't eat out all that much as a kid. And we rarely ate at an Italian restaurant because my father always said, we're not going to an Italian restaurant, we make better food at home. And generally that was true. But for some of these dishes, Mom made this from time to time. Again, because it's got about a cup of cream in it. Pop was like, he just didn't care for cream sauces at all. He was a tomato sauce guy. That was just the way he did it. All right, my chicken is just about ready. We'll take another look at that. There you go. See, isn't that nice? And there are all my other ingredients. You've got the butter. You've got those mushrooms that some people love, some people don't. The shallot, which is so nice and delicate. And there's a little fresh thyme, which we're going to put in very close to the end as we're just finishing up the recipe. I hope everybody's been having a good week so far. And it's just another great Thursday afternoon to get together and have a cocktail, make a little nice dinner. And after I cook this, I've got a Zoom meeting and a bourbon tasting, and then Richard Herwig's going to make me dinner. So I'm going to take some of this to him. All right, our chicken is ready to go. So we're going to take that out. Voila, okay. That's great. Never lick your fingers in the kitchen. I just did it. I broke my cardinal rule. Cover that up. Now, I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit on that pan, but we're going to make everything right here. So what I'm going to do, I haven't done this. Let's try this. Let's see if we can get a better view. I know you're looking at the top of my bald head. Hold on. All right. Have camera, will travel. Almost. It's always an experiment here in the Ayachetta Kitchen. Evans Ayachetta Kitchen. What kind of bourbon? Mike, I'm drinking I'm drinking Gentleman Jack tonight. And some friends of mine have some others in mind. All right, now, I've got all that wonderful leftover juice from the chicken, and I'm going to put in, that's the shallot, and it's still nice and sizzling. Get the shallot in there. Everybody stay right there. All right, we got the shallot in. Put that right in there in the same pan that you did the chicken. No need to do anything other than put it in. You want to preserve all of those lovely flavors from the chicken au jus that you were just cooking. All right, so we're going to do that. And now I'm going to put about that much more butter in there. Okay, boom. We'll let that, stir that around, let the butter melt. Once you've got your shallots to the point where they're kind of sweating out just a little bit, we're ready for the garlic. And you guys know, if you've been watching, typically I don't like to use a lot of garlic. I under garlic most of my dishes, but garlic to taste. This is about 2, maybe 3 cloves. So we're going to put that in there. That's already, and you know, I was running a little late today. Hey, how are you? Is this a good shot? Carolyn, thank you. Carolyn was my producer on Eye in the Desert, and she produced that show for years. So if this is a good shot for her, that's good. All right, so we've got the heat. We're melting the butter. We've got the garlic going. As always, you don't want to burn the garlic because then it's going to get that really bitter flavor. You just want it just softly sauteed with the shallot. Get everything nicely incorporated. When the last of that butter's gone, as it is, now I'm going to add in our Marsala. It calls for about a cup. We'll eyeball it. That looks good. There's not very much left. I don't know who's been dipping into the Marsala. All right, I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit, and we're going to reduce that. So I've got my garlic, butter, a little olive oil that was left over from sauteing the chicken. I've got my shallot. I've salt and peppered the chicken, but I'll put a little salt and pepper into the sauce. And you're going to bring the heat up, and what you want to do is let this come up nicely and bring it to a medium simmer. Let it boil off some of that alcohol. You want to boil off the alcohol and preserve the flavor of the Marsala. And by the way, this is beginning to smell really, really fantastic. I love these meals that you can do basically in one pan. Hello, Rick Ross. Nice to see you. I drank the wine. I didn't drink it. No, that wasn't me. It might have been me. Paige, it might have been. All right, so you can see that this is beginning to come up to a little bit of a boil, which we want to do. We want to cook off that alcohol. This is a kid-friendly dish. And it's also starting to get that nice richness as that Marsala starts to cook down with that butter in there. And you know what? Extra butter never hurt anything. So we'll put a little more butter in there. I think in the recipe that I posted, I said 4 tablespoons of butter. So you're going to cook a little of that butter with the chicken and the olive oil, but then the rest of it's going to go right in the sauce. And it just smooths it out. Don't burn off too much of the alcohol. Rick, don't worry, Rick. I'm not going to burn off this alcohol. Just a little gentleman jack to make the afternoon go a little easier. All right. Now we're going to bring that up, and you can see we've got it to a nice little rolling boil. Can you see that? Does that look good? Let me see if I can make it a little better for you. Experimenting with camera angles. Looks very bright. Oh, that's good. There you go. Can you see? How's that? Was the lighting okay? All right, so we're going to cook that down a little bit. I threw in a little extra butter, so kind of a good indicator when we're ready to go with the next step is when the butter is completely melted, and just about is. And that Marsala is going to give it a nice richness, a little sweetness. I'm going to put in my chicken stock now. That was about 2/3 of a cup of chicken stock. Don't need a lot. And once again, we want to bring this back up to temperature. So once you put in the chicken stock, it's going to knock down the temperature. It's going to stop boiling, so you're going to bring it right back up to a little bit of a boil, which won't take long. And your chicken is already pretty much cooked through, and then we're going to put it back into the sauce when we're ready to do so. One of the things that I really like to do with Marsala, even if I'm not making chicken Marsala, sometimes if you want a side dish to go on top of steaks, what I do is just saute some mushrooms like these that we got right here in some butter and some Marsala, and that goes right on top of your steak, and it's fantastic. Now, I mentioned I already salt and peppered the chicken, but I'm going to give this a little, just a quick twist. I've got some nice Himalayan sea salt in there. Of course, everything is better with fresh ground black pepper. Another twist, there we go. All right. Now, while that is still at a pretty nice temperature, a little bit of a boil going on here. So we're still cooking down the Marsala, we're still cooking down the chicken stock, and I'm gonna put my mushrooms in, okay? That's just one container of mushrooms. I bought them already sliced. You know, we are very lucky that we have such great produce here in the Coachella Valley. All right, so now you've got all of those lovely flavors. Mushrooms, I don't know, some people really love them, some people don't. I'm sort of meds and meds on mushrooms. But the nice thing about mushrooms, especially in a sauce like this, is they're so malleable, they pick up the flavor of whatever you're cooking them in. So they're gonna pick up that nice Marsala flavor as you go in. Hello, John Gilhooly, how are you? So what we wanna do, you don't wanna cook the mushrooms to death. You don't want them crunchy when you're done, but you want them nice, soft. They're gonna absorb some of the liquid. Hello, Jennifer Hunt, how are you doing? So we're gonna keep this at a pretty good temperature. We're gonna bring it back to a boil. And you can see it's just boiling around the edges a little bit, but we'll come up to temperature pretty quickly. So, and again, next week, my buddy Bob is gonna join us, and we're gonna do homemade, from scratch Caesar dressing. And half the fun of watching Bob cook is he does know the actual story about how Caesar salad and dressing was invented. And during Prohibition, I'm not going to give it all away, but he'll tell you that story. So we're going to do that. And he's got a bunch of good stories. All right, so we're going to continue to let those mushrooms cook down a little bit. You see we got a nice simmer going on here. So we've got the mushrooms, the shallots, the garlic. The kitchen smells fantastic. And I want this to thicken up a little bit as we go along. Now, once you get it to the consistency that you want, and you want it to be cooked down enough so that you have a little bit of thickness to the sauce, a little body to it. But you don't want to cook off all of your moisture. You don't want to cook off all of the liquid. Okay, so now we've got that just about where I like it. I'm going to turn the heat down to a much lower simmer because we're going to put in about a cup of heavy cream. All right, so we're just going to add that in like that. And the reason I turn it down, obviously, is I don't want to scorch the cream. Now look at that. Isn't that a beautiful consistency? If I stop splashing it all over the place. Now, once again, when you add in the chilled cream, are the dogs sitting there watching? Yes, they are actually, they were with great interest. They have lost a bit of interest and are just over there waiting for the fallout, as we like to say. All right, so you're gonna put in the cream. It's obviously gonna bring your temperature back down, so you're gonna, once again, bring this back up to a very soft rolling simmer. Richard still can't hear. I don't know. What have you done to your phone, Richard? Or what have you done to your ears, Richard? Hello, Ira Freeman. How are you doing? So we're just going to stir that around and let it continue to thicken up. I'm going to bring that back up just a little bit. I'm going to let it do that. And while it's doing that, we can have a conversation here. I'll look you in the eye. I don't know why Richard's having trouble hearing. So this is the first broadcast I've done. I got a new phone. I hope it looks better. The camera's supposed to be better. I know it's the other camera, but I was very excited to get a new phone. So we're going to wait for the sauce to come back up just a little bit. And then we're going to add in the chicken and let that simmer around. And you can let that simmer for a while. The longer you let it go, the more that chicken is going to absorb that sauce. But it's a pretty quick, you can have all this done. There's a little bit of prep time involved, especially if you're going to pound out the chicken. But once you got the chicken filleted and pounded out, then you just throw it in the flour. You saute that, take it off the heat, and and then everything just goes right back into this pan. So it's so easy to make this dish at home, and it's a great dish when you go into your favorite restaurant and order it. And it's always nice to do that. But we don't have quite as many of those options available to us. Just although things are starting to open up back slowly. Some people are ready to go out. Some people are not, and I totally understand it. And of course, some of you guys are probably watching from other places other than here in Riverside County, which is actually opened a little faster than a lot of places in California. So one of the things when I started doing this several weeks ago, we were still on lockdown, and I thought, well, I'm going to be cooking anyway. Why don't I share some of my favorite recipes on Facebook? So that's how this all got started, and now we just got to keep it going, and I got to keep finding different fun recipes. So I'm looking forward to next week in the Caesar salad and the Caesar dressing, because it's a really nice recipe. And if you've never made it from scratch, it makes all the difference in the world. And you're going to see how he coddles the egg. It's just amazing. All right, speaking of amazing, we're coming along real nicely here. I'm going to put you back down, let you take a peek at the pan. Don't look at my dirty kitchen over there, that part. There we go. Isn't that nice? So we've got a nice simmer going on. We're getting the mushrooms soften up a little bit. Mike, just a bit of... Mike, I don't know how open you guys are these days. My friend Mike is in Roanoke, Virginia. Hi, Donna. How are you doing? So we're going to continue to simmer that. We've got that lovely cream in there, which is going to give you just a beautiful creamy thickness, the richness of the Marsala. And you notice those mushrooms have really just incorporated themselves so nicely. And so if you don't love mushrooms, basically you're just going to be eating this mouthful of mushroom that's soaked up all of this delicious sauce. It's just going to taste like Marsala and cream. You're watching Coeur d'Alene. Fantastic. Coeur d'Alene's such a beautiful area. All right, so we're going to let that continue. We've got it to a point, where we can add our chicken back in. So I got these lovely chicken fillets. And it's coming a little, I don't want it to be a rolling boil. I just want it to be a nice simmer. And we're going to put the chicken back in here. Really, I'm not in love with that piece of chicken. Okay, here we go. Now we've got the chicken in there. Pretty simple dish. There are not a lot of ingredients to this one. The shallot, the garlic, obviously the Marsala, your chicken stock, the mushrooms, the butter. It's rich, it's delicious. It is not for the faint of heart or those who are on a serious diet, but it is absolutely a fantastic and let's see if we can get, oh yeah, there you go. So we're just gonna let that simmer for a little bit, and just to let the chicken absorb some of those flavors. I don't want it to boil up too much. But you can see how your chicken that's been sauteed in the flour is picking up the sauce, and that's what you want. You want the sauce to cling to those nice tender chicken fillets so that when you plate this, and you can plate it, obviously most of the time, you put this over a little pasta. Of course, you can do rice. It goes great with mashed potatoes. Hello, Sandy Lonzaware. I was just talking about Bob, because Bob's going to come on next week and do Caesar salad with us. So we're just going to let that simmer. Typically, I would let it simmer for probably 15 or 20 minutes. We're not going to go that long, obviously, this afternoon. We'll let it simmer for just a little bit, and then I have this lovely fresh thyme. And that's going to go in very close to when we're about to serve it. It'll give you that nice little green color on top, but we'll put it in just a minute or two. I'm going to let that simmer just a little bit longer. You know, I've really enjoyed doing these little segments. They've been fun, and they've really forced me to dig into my recipe book and kind of look around for some other stuff, which, you know, you start out with kind of comfort food. And I think the first one I did was steak Sinatra because I love that dish. And the place that was making it was closed. So I couldn't get it, so I had to make it at home. Hello, David Shiflett, how are you? Yeah, it has been a long time. You're in Puerto Rico now. One of my friends from Charlottesville, where I grew up. Yes, Janine did live in Rancho Mirage, but you slipped on over to Coeur d'Alene. I think Chef is pushing it, but thank you. So cheers to you guys for joining me each week on this little culinary journey. I hope you picked up some useful recipes along the way, with more to come. All right. You see how beautiful that is? No, of course you don't. Here, hold on. Let's take a look at this. Now that is a good looking dish. And we're just about ready to serve it. A little too much heat under it. Oh. The mushrooms are going to be nice and tender. The chicken is going to be wonderfully tender. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little of this fresh thyme, just pluck it right out. I wash the little sprigs, and then you just put. There's no rushing this sort of process. I'll tell you a funny story. My wife and I, we went to Italy for our honeymoon. And whatever possessed us to do this, I don't know. But when we came back, we said, let's make one of the dishes that we learned for the whole family. So we flew in the night before, and so the next day, which was a Sunday, we were going to make this dish. And it called for fresh rosemary. So I went and picked a couple of sprigs, and I'm pulling the rosemary off. People are just about knocking at the door, and we're trying to get this dish done. And Andrea looks at me, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm working on the rosemary. And she says, "This is not the way you do it." I said, "This is my way of doing it." She goes, "You're doing it the slow way." So I'm doing the thyme the slow way, okay? But that's all right. Great dishes sometimes take a little extra time. And I made a pun and didn't realize it because I'm working here with thyme. There we go. We got that nice fresh herb in the sauce. And we are going to give that a stir. I'll give you a better look at it. So that looks very nice. I have been rushing around. I did not today have time to whip up pasta. So I'm going to serve this as is. Let me grab a plate. All right. Give it another stir. I'm dripping that sauce all over the place, but that's okay. All right, we've got a couple of nice fillets. Let me grab another one out of there. Come here. There we go. Now, I want to get some of those mushrooms and a little more of that sauce. And the rest of that can continue to cook. And let me show you our finished chicken Marsala. All right. Just about done. I'm sorry for the shaky camera work. Here we go. There is your chicken Marsala, all ready to go. It's got that wonderful sauce. It's got fresh thyme on it, mushrooms, And again, you use shallots, not onions. It's a little lighter, a little more delicate. We've got a little garlic in there, not a lot, and that wonderful Marsala wine. Sweet, just a little salty. It is ready to go. And like I said, serve it over your favorite pasta or rice. Risotto is great. So that's what you can do. Hello, Tamara. How are you? We all need to get together. That's my cousin. So, it's a little chicken marsala this evening. And of course, you can do this with, if you're a veal fan, you can do it with veal. Do the same thing. Get the veal cutlets, pound them out a little bit. When you use the meat mallet, I'll show you. You know, when you use one of these guys, covered up with cellophane, and then you pound it out a little bit, and it's going to break up the connective tissue in your veal or your chicken. It's going to make it a little more tender. It'll make it nice and fork tender. So there you go. Hello, Shirley Claire. Nice to see you. Thank you guys for joining me on this Thursday. We'll be back next week. And like I said, my buddy Bob is going to join me, and we're going to make from scratch Caesar salad dressing. You're going to love it. Now, again, I'll post the ingredient list earlier in the day. So if you want to cook along with us, you can do so. And so that'll be next week. You guys have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow morning on News Channel 3. And of course, on the radio, CV 1043. Have a great night.